Hare Krishna. Welcome. My name is Latika, and I'm going to read Bhagavad-gita with you because that's what I want to do. So we are in the introduction. I'm reading this edition, Bhagavad-gita as it is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Because to read Bhagavad-gita, we want to read it in the same spirit as it was spoken, in a spirit of bhakti, devotion to Krishna. So I will start where I ended last time. How Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad-gita should be noted. His manner of acceptance is given in the 10th chapter, chapter 10, texts 12 to 14. Arjuna vacha parang brahma parang dhama pavitrang paramang bhavan purushang shashvatang divyam adidevam ajang vibhum ahustvang rishaya sarve devarishir naradas asito devalo vyasa svayang chaiva bravishime sarvametadritang manye yanmam vadasi keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyakting Vidurdevana Danavaha. Arjuna said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality." Yes, this is interesting. Arjuna says, I totally accept everything you are saying, but what we will find, of course, not today, but towards the end of the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna has told Arjuna a lot. And he turns to Arjuna and he says, now I have given you all this knowledge, I have told you everything. You think about it, you consider it, and then you do what you think best. So that is the process. Arjuna is not forced into following this knowledge, and we are not forced either. But Krishna wants to equip us with the best knowledge, with the best ability to understand and practice that knowledge. Then he gives us the time we need to consider it, and then he trusts us to make our own decisions, to have follow our own free will. Of course, if we follow Krishna's instructions, it's probably better for us because Krishna knows us and he knows a lot. But if we don't, then there will always be another time. It will be the next time. But when we have come to this point where we're reading Bhagavad-gita, why not aim for, deeply understanding and realizing now? And the best way to reach such an understanding is to actually start out with a presumption. This is presented as the absolute truth, so if I accept it as the absolute truth, at least in a hypothetical sense, I stand the greater chance to have a full realization and understanding of the Bhagavad-gita. So after hearing Bhagavad-gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman. This is the spiritual energy, the spiritual nature. But the Supreme Living Being, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Brahman. Yes. So there are schools that aim at understanding the fact that we are spirit and not matter. And this is true. This is a bona fide realization. This is a true fact. But when you start to say, so that's the truth and the truth ends there, then we make a mistake. And we don't want to make that mistake. We want to have access to the full realization of the Supreme. And that is, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we are the small parts of Brahman, the small individual. persons of the Brahman nature. Every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme Being is Supreme Brahman. Param Dhama means that he is the supreme abode, or he's the supreme rest or abode of everything. Yes, everything rests in something. If I have a cup of tea, I have a lovely cup of tea, ginger tea. I will not let go in the middle of the air. That would be foolish. I will put it down on the table where it rests somewhere. So the table rests on the floor rests on the ground rests on the rock below, and the whole planet rests in the sky, mysteriously so, because Krishna put it there, and we're all resting inside his shelter. Paramdhama. Pavitram means that he's pure, untainted by material contamination. We enter this world and we become touched by it. We become, to some extent, the soul doesn't change, but our understanding of ourselves, that changes. We become touched by it. Purusham means that he's the supreme enjoyer. Sashvatam, original. Divyam, transcendental. Adi Devam, the supreme personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn. And Vibhum, the greatest. So that is something. Supreme enjoyer. We are trying to enjoy. We are trying to be happy. We are trying to find pleasure here and there. Our capacity is very limited. You have a nice meal and you come to a point, it doesn't matter how nice it is, your capacity to enjoy it is finished. You cannot eat more. And any capacity of enjoyment, we find that it is not unlimited. And in fact, it is so that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and we are his servants. In our nature is such that we have a capacity for joy. We have a capacity for bliss even. That is our nature. But that nature comes out better when we are engaged in Krishna's service. Krishna, he's complete. He's full in himself. He's fully able to enjoy the service of all of us, to enjoy the relationship and the love of all of us, and that doesn't become a problem. If we try to take that position, we see that in the world sometimes. Dictators or people who become hungry after power and they want to enjoy everybody else's service and surrender. They want to steal all the money and make all the laws, and it doesn't work. They cannot hold all of that. Krishna can hold all of that because he's the supreme person, and he always loves us. He always cares about us. He doesn't take advantage of us, but he can naturally accept our service. That's what makes him, among other things, but that also makes him God. Ajam, he's not born. We are born. We are forced to take a certain body in accordance with our karma, with our qualities and desires, so on. Krishna doesn't do that. He comes in his own original spiritual form and he just descends here without being touched by any of these illusions or material identifications or any of the problems at all. He doesn't change at all. And Vibhum, he's always the greatest. Now, one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of Bhagavad-gita, substantiates these praises in the next verse, where he says that Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only by himself, but by the authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasadeva. These are great personality who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says completely. He accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Yes, so these great sages from the beginning of creation, we will run into them. Maybe not as much in Bhagavad-gita as if we continue to study the Bhagavatam also, which is the history of the universe in connection with devotional service to Krishna. Narada, he comes up everywhere because he's a transcendental spaceman traveling on the sound of his musical instrument, constantly chanting the names of God. So these are not just the closest friends who We know how it is. We have some friends and we talk about them. We will say, yes, he's really great. He knows this stuff. But maybe on some level we do understand that objectively somebody else might know these things better. But this is our friend, so that's all right. So that might be, we might not trust Arjuna fully, because him and Krishna, it is known that they had a very close friendship for a long time. So he brings in these Vedic authorities, just for our benefit, so we don't misunderstand who Krishna is. Sarvam etadritam manye, I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand, and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Lord Shri Krishna without becoming a devotee? Yes, this is also interesting. We live in a very, atheistic, anti-spiritual atmosphere, and the whole idea of God is frequently questioned. How can there be a God? This is just some idea. This is just some imagination for those who cannot accept reality for what it is. Because reality means that which we can measure and touch and control in different ways. And this is, of course, a certain foolishness. There are so many things that we cannot really measure and touch. Consciousness can be, we can understand that there is consciousness. Without consciousness, everything becomes absurd, entirely absurd. But to measure it and to quantify it and to do a scientific study on it, to understand the cause and effect of consciousness, it's extremely difficult. Other things, intelligence, there are certain systems to measure intelligence, but they are not complete. And intelligence, it is not a thing. You cannot pour it into a a measuring cup and say, here, I have intelligence. It's 1 full liter. No, it is something that is invisible, but it's understood by its symptoms. So with Krishna, of course, if we don't want to understand the world through that perspective of seeing us as tiny spirit souls and seeing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can easily avoid it just by our desire. Krishna will even help us to forget him if that is what we want. But if we have a little bit of inquisitive mind of seeing what is beyond the surface, a little bit open to that perspective, then we want to understand. Even if we don't know Krishna, we want to understand if there is such a person, if there is such a category beyond our own limited capacities, and understand it. And without being a devotee, we will not understand him, because we will not want to understand him like that. So therefore Bhagavad-gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So according to the statements of the Bhagavad-gita or the statements of Arjuna, that person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad-gita, we should at least theoretically accept Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand Bhagavad-gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad-gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad-gita, because it is a great mystery. Just what is Bhagavad-gita? The purpose of Bhagavad-gita is to deliver mankind from the nescience of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna was also in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Shri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad-gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxiety because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Yes, this is interesting. Sat means the truth, existence, and so on, and asat is the opposite. And one way to determine what is what, that which is true, that which has existence, means it will not be in non-existence. So something that is temporary is considered asat. Something that is an illusion is considered asat. So this world we live in, our conception of it is a sort of asat. The energy is Krishna's energy. It will be there eternally. So in that sense it does exist. But the forms we see, the forms we are part of, I am right now in this body. This body will not exist another 50 years, most likely. Then it will be gone. So if I think that this is me, that is an illusion, that is asat. If I understand that I am now taking a body made of material energy, although I myself, to my nature, is eternal spirit, that is an understanding that is true, because it will forever be like that. As spirit souls of the Sat nature, we are not meant to be compromised by this material existence that is always temporary and always bringing so much suffering. So out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he does not want suffering, but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahmajigyasa. Athato Brahmajigyasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the Absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering, or where they came from, where they shall go after death, are proper students for understanding Bhagavad-gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. Yes. So, now we are coming down to the hard, cold facts of life. And we can handle them in different ways. We can try to avoid them. We can turn a blind eye to them and try to fill our life with so much fluff. I don't want to be rude or anything. But when we don't face the true facts of life, that we are facing death at every moment, that this world is full of problems, and that they are actually impossible to solve, we don't give up our duties. We still try to be good persons. We try to do our duties. We try to be, do right by others also. But at one point we need to turn inside. At one point we need to turn to the spiritual existence. And then I would say, take advantage of Arjuna, or take advantage of Bhagavad-gita and turn to Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang